Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a really fundamental tension. It's a policy conflict between, let's say, national ambition and the reality on the ground in education. The focus is on South Africa, but, this dilemma, this choice between shiny new tech and fixing deep underlying problems, it's something you see happening all over the world.
It really is. And right now, the buzz is all about AI.
Oh, absolutely. Personalized tutors, automated marking, these, smart dashboards, all the promise of innovation.
Right. But the analysis we're diving into today, mainly from a piece called Foundation Before Innovation, argues this focus is, well, strategically misplaced.
So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Exactly. We're here to unpack the argument that AI in education, for now, needs to be what the author calls a second-order conversation.
A second-order conversation.
Yes, because the sources are pretty emphatic. The real first-order emergency is foundational learning. Basic literacy, numeracy, and maybe the biggest one, just keeping kids in school, learner retention.
And why is that so urgent?
Because the analysis warns that ignoring these basics now will, and this is a direct quote, magnify the consequences of every unresolved gap in the future.
Magnify the consequences. Wow. That suggests the gaps we have now aren't just, holding kids back. They're creating future vulnerabilities.
That's the core of it.
Yeah.
We need to understand what that magnification actually looks like.
And we're drawing from that main analysis, but also reports from the Zero Dropout campaign, articles from the Daily Maverick, The Guardian, and even the government's own planning documents.
So to start, we have to look at the uncomfortable truth of the system itself.
Okay, where do we begin?
We have to begin with a phrase from a piece by Mohammed Coovadia. He said the system is warehousing children, not educating them.
Warehousing children, that is a brutal assessment.
It's a powerful, almost clinical condemnation. It suggests the goal has become containment, not, cultivation.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Warehousing. What does that actually look like on the ground, according to these sources?
Well, it looks like a few things happening at once. So for one, you have older learners who, just can't write a basic sentence. They can't do simple, grade-appropriate math, but they're still moved along.
They're just passed through the system.
Exactly. And then there's the normalization of what the analysis calls catastrophic averages.
Catastrophic averages, meaning?
Meaning even the students who do pass are often just barely scraping by, a 30 or 40% pass mark. It masks these huge gaps in real understanding. They've met a threshold, but they can't actually engage with the material.
And the third piece of this, which feels like the most devastating, is the metrics game.
Ah, yes. The whole idea of success gets boiled down to one single number.
The metric pass rate.
The metric pass rate. It becomes the big podium moment, the big political win. And that's where the measurement problem really is, the key difference between the pass rate and something called throughput.
Okay, explain that difference. Because even the Department of Basic Education's own reports, their own strategic plans, they're all full of targets tied to that final number.
Right, so the incentive is built around that final number.
Right.
The hidden cost of focusing only on that pass rate is retention. It's the pipeline.
The pipeline.
Think of it this way. Let's say, and this is based on data the Zero Dropout campaign has been talking about for years, let's say 1.2 million kids start grade 1.
Okay.
But 12 years later, only 500,000 of that original group even make it to the final Matric exam.
So more than half are gone.
More than half have disappeared from the system. Now, if 90% of those 500,000 pass, you get a fantastic pass rate. It looks great on the podium.
But the throughput?
The throughput is a catastrophe. How many of the original 1.2 million actually made it all the way through? The Zero Dropout campaign says the pipeline tells the truth the podium often avoids.
So the whole system is incentivized to ignore its biggest failure.
The incentive is to manage the few who reach the finish line and just treat the hundreds of thousands of missing kids as statistical noise.
Which is just, that's the definition of a broken system. So if we connect that failure, the retention failure, to the core academic failure, what do you get?
You get the foundational gap. All the research, all the journalism, it all points to the same thing. The crisis starts with early literacy.
Reading?
Writing.
Mm-hmm.
The crucial insight is that kids who don't learn to read for meaning by, say, grade 3 or 4, they very rarely recover.
And why is it so hard to catch up?
Because reading stops being a subject and it becomes a tool. Suddenly, the curriculum just assumes you can read to learn.
Right. To learn history, to learn science.
Exactly. If you're still struggling just to decode the words on the page, every other subject becomes a locked door. you fall further and further behind. And that is the landscape where we're now talking about layering on AI.
It's like trying to install a turbocharger on an engine that's already seized.
It is.
Yeah.
And of course, this leads straight to inequality because this problem isn't uniform across the system.
No, I imagine not.
The sources are clear. A small, privileged part of the system does exceptionally well. But the vast majority of learners, they're the ones struggling with these basics. And you just can't fix that with a technology patch.
And then there's the issue of trust, right?
A huge issue. I mean, work from Afrobarometer shows that public trust in the government on education is mixed, to be polite. So when you try to push expensive, complex new technologies into schools that are already struggling.
People get skeptical. Is this really to help the kids, or is it another big contract for someone?
Precisely. That trust gap can undermine the whole thing before a single computer is even switched on.
Okay, so we should pause here because it's important to say the sources are not just dismissing the technology itself.
Not at all. In a healthy system, a system where kids can read and teachers aren't completely overwhelmed, AI has incredible potential.
And our sources were clear on that. It could be revolutionary for teachers.
Absolutely. Think about instantly translating materials for a multilingual class, summarizing dense reading, and, just cutting down on the crushing administrative work that drives so many good teachers away.
But that's in a healthy system. The risk in a broken one is what?
The risk is that AI becomes, and I'm quoting again, a cosmetic layer over structural failure.
A cosmetic layer, so it looks innovative.
It looks fantastic. You get a sleek app, a dashboard showing engagement, but the real underlying problem, the capability gap, is still there. It hasn't been touched.
Can you give us an example of how that would work, how it would mask the failure?
Sure. Imagine a grade 9 student who really struggles with reading comprehension. Instead of getting help with that core skill, they use an AI to summarize a history text.
Okay.
They can pass the assignment. They might even ace a quiz based on the AI summary. The system records success.
But they still can't actually read the original text.
They can't grapple with it at all. The AI has enabled a bypass, not a recovery. And this is where the stakes get so much higher.
Because it's not just about passing exams anymore, is it? Why does foundational reading matter so much more now in the age of AI?
Because the entire information landscape has, well, it's exploded. It's been destabilized.
You've got synthetic content everywhere.
Everywhere. Persuasion is getting algorithmically cheaper by the day, and misinformation is more scalable than ever. So if you have millions of young people who cannot read for meaning, who can't spot a logical fallacy, who can't tell hype from fact, they're not just at a disadvantage in the job market.
They're vulnerable.
They are structurally vulnerable to manipulation on a massive democratic scale.
That reframes the whole problem. The warehouse isn't just failing to create opportunity, it's creating a national security vulnerability.
You could absolutely argue that. It means the most urgent AI skill we need to teach kids isn't prompt writing.
It's discernment.
It is discernment, the basic human skill of reading critically, reasoning, checking, and resisting that emotional bait. You simply cannot build discernment on a foundation of illiteracy.
So the tech isn't just a distraction from the problem. It actually makes the consequences of the original problem much, much worse.
It shifts the game from being about economic opportunity to being about societal stability.
So if that's the diagnosis, what's the prescription? How do leaders start to fix this? What are the steps?
The sources lay out 3 pretty clear steps. It's all about accountability over, policy spin.
Okay, what's step 1?
The first is honest sequencing. AI has to be a second-order priority, a tool, not the headline, until you can show real, measurable progress on foundational learning and retention.
So fixing the dropout crisis comes first.
It has to. If the system is leaking hundreds of thousands of learners, no classroom app is going to reach them. You have to fix the leak in the pipeline before you start trying to optimize the water pressure at the very end.
That makes sense. Okay, what's the second step?
Accountability that cannot be spun. Policymakers have to stop just celebrating the Matric pass rate. They need to publish it every single year, right alongside the throughput rate.
So we see both numbers, the pass rate for those who finished and the percentage of the original group that actually made it.
Yes. Dropout has to be treated as the national crisis it is. And we have to remember the reality on the ground, the conditions in schools, access problems. Accountability needs to reflect that reality, not just one shiny number.
And the third step, this one is about the tech itself.
It is. Child-centered procurement. Any AI pilot, any big tech contract has to be tied strictly to verifiable child-centered outcomes.
Not just vendor promises or how good the demo looks.
Exactly. The reporting around the dropout crisis warned us about this. If the pipeline is leaking, you can't frame new technology as some kind of victory lap. It has to be an evidence-based tool to fix the foundational crisis. Anything else is just a distraction.
This feels like such a clear roadmap. It really comes down to intent, doesn't it? As the author said, I am not against AI in education. I am against distraction dressed up as innovation.
And that's the heart of it. The kids who can't read, the kids who disappear from the system, they can't be a footnote to this big, exciting story about AI.
No.
The rescue mission starts at the basics. Literacy, numeracy, retention, dignity.
Mm.
AI can be an amazing tool, but only after we admit where the real emergency is.
If we try to jump the line, we're just making the next generation even more vulnerable.
Exactly.
So as you think about everything we've discussed in this deep dive, here's a final thought for you to take away. In an era of automated content, of automated persuasion that's cheap and everywhere, how do weak educational foundations stop being just a limiter of individual opportunity, which is bad enough, and become a direct magnifier of national vulnerability? What steps beyond just rolling out new tech are essential to build the civic, the democratic resilience of the next generation, when the ability to tell truth from falsehood might just be the most precious skill of all? We'll see you next time.